What's up, you guys? I'm Eric and welcome back to my channel. No, you grow up. So for today's video, I'm kind of just going to hypothesize and speculate on what I think the future of NECA's Toon line holds. I'm going to come at this from a couple different angles, like distribution, as well as the characters I think they're going to be coming out in the next couple of years. And I'm basing all this off nothing. It's just my thoughts, it's just my opinions. I just kind of want to have some fun with this. And at the end of the day, my opinion doesn't really matter. I don't know anything more than any of you do. I'm just a guy that has a YouTube channel and I like talking about this kind of stuff. So let's kind of talk about where we just left off with Haulathon. So Haulathon gave us a ton of new figures. It was a huge shot in the arm for our collections. And for the first time, in my opinion, we really started to get real deep cut characters. I've said this before, I'll say it again a million times. What is a deep cut kind of differs between people. Something that's a deep cut for me might not necessarily be a deep cut for you. I feel like there's plenty of characters that were only in 1 or 2 episodes, but they're super memorable, like Rex 1, so I don't really consider him to be a deep cut. Shout out to Briar Shin, who actually corrected me when I said that I thought Rex was only in 1 episode. Turns out he is in 2 episodes. Seasons 5 through 7 I'm pretty fuzzy on, and I feel like whenever I'm watching those DVDs, I must just step away for a while when those episodes are on, because I never remember Rex 1 coming back. But he did, and I appreciate you letting me know that. I don't want to go too far out on a tangent here, but I never get mad when you guys correct me on things. Muffin just popped up here. I don't know if you guys can see her or not. Kitty. So I'm not an expert. I never claim to be. So I make mistakes all the time on here. Same with the podcast. And when I do, I appreciate it when you guys correct me. I'm never going to be a person that gets butthurt about it. I do not have a huge ego. Again, the only difference between me and you is I just put my thoughts on YouTube. So getting back to the point I was trying to make before I got sidetracked. There's no true definition of what a deep cut really is. But in my opinion, we got a couple in the last wave. A lot of people might consider Lotus to be a deep cut, but I consider her first episode really memorable. And that's just me. That might not be the case with you, so I can understand why people would say she's a deep cut. But for me, it was really just Shakuhachi and Jersey Red that were the big deep cuts from the last wave. In Bebop and Rocksteady's gang's alternate forms, you could kind of count them as deep cuts as well. Because other than Scrag, we only see those characters for like a split second in one image. So for me, it's like their alternate forms are a deep cut, but the regular forms are very iconic. First episode is my favorite episode of the entire series. So Bebop and Rocksteady's gang and Bebop and Rocksteady in human form are very important characters for me. Jersey Red only appears in 1 episode, and even though that is one that I've seen a lot, it's just not one that I care about, and I just don't really care about her much as a character. Shakuhachi is in the 2nd episode that Lotus is in, and again, for whatever reason, that episode is just a lot less memorable to me. I can never even consistently say his name right until the figure came out. So I think we're in for a lot of deep cuts to come. I think we're going to start getting some characters that a lot of people don't care about, maybe even including myself. Until we get to the Red Sky seasons, I'm still going to be pretty much all in on everything though, just because I do want to complete this world. I kind of consider the Red Sky seasons to be their own thing separately, even though it's not, and that's kind of a discussion for another day. But as far as those first 7 seasons go, whatever they put out, I'm gonna get. They showed us a couple figures that we haven't gotten yet, like Bugman. They also didn't give us that giant mutated Napoleon either. And then there's those random characters like the Space Adventure, Usagi, and Donatello. So we do have a couple things confirmed that will be on the way soon. But outside of that, we don't really know a whole lot other than what we've seen from some box art. I think Tempestra is definitely going to be up soon. I think she'd be a perfect pack mate with Bugman. And one that I know would be a deep cut for a lot of people, but I really want to see is Maestro and his goons. I really like those VHSs that had those episodes on them. Leonardo lightens up, Raphael meets his match, Donatello gets his degree, and Michelangelo meets Bugman, I think was what they were all called. So from Donatello's episode, I wouldn't mind getting the nerdy scientists either. The ones that take off their shirts and they're all jacked and stuff. I wouldn't mind getting those guys in a 2-pack. I feel like there's a ton of gangsters that are going to be on the docket. There's none of them that I'm really too excited for, but again, I'll get whatever they throw at me. And then there's just the countless aliens that I can't even think of all right now. There's the Pee Wee Herman looking one. There's the ones that have 6 arms. I'm pretty sure that's an episode that I had when I was a kid too, the one where I think Donatello and Rocksteady get stranded with them. Or maybe I'm confusing a couple episodes, I don't know. There's the 2 wrestler turtles. Are they Hans and Franz? I can't remember their names right offhand either, but I feel like those 2 guys definitely have to be in the works. And I think either this fall or next spring, they're going to give us a 4-pack of turtles, and I definitely feel like they're going to come with the leather jackets and the glasses from season 1. It seems like they've been pretty much on a yearly release with turtles, maybe a little bit longer. And that kind of brings me to my next point too. So for the past 3 drops of these figures, they've all came during the online Target events. We've gotten 2 big drops for Haulathon and a big drop at Geek-Out. Last spring, NECA made a lot of the figures that came in the fall Geek-Out available to pre-order, and they all kind of started hitting in the fall. But this year they didn't do that, and I have a feeling they're going to wait for that event to drop any more figures at Target. I definitely see most, if not all, of their Toon drops just coming to Target's online events going forward. And I don't think there's anybody that's too pleased about that. I think everybody would much rather get the figures spread out every couple weeks like they were doing before. I didn't even go in on any of the figures other than the black and white Usagi that wasn't in the Toon line because it was just a ridiculous amount of money that they were asking for right now. I get that they kind of have to spread things out now that the comic lines are expanding. The movie line is definitely slowing down, so that's not in the way of anything. Kino figures are pretty much the only thing we really have on the docket from that line. I feel like the time between Haulathon and Geek-Out is when they're going to really start dropping the comic book figures to kind of fill that gap. And that's an awesome line because you don't have to stress about it. You can get those figures anywhere and they are in abundance pretty much everywhere. After the Casey release, I feel like that's kind of the end for the moment anyway on the Universal Monsters line. They haven't really shown off or teased anything else for that one, so it pretty much just is the Toon line and the comic lines that are going really strong right now. Even though we're all definitely bummed that the majority of the cartoon figures probably are going to be dropped on the online events going forward, I do have to play devil's advocate for a minute and say that it's probably the smartest thing that NECA could do going forward. Now that they're getting more into the deep cuts, the demand definitely just isn't the same as what it was towards the beginning. Yes, they are still definitely in high demand, but I feel like NECA was probably even surprised at how fast the figures they put out just went. When they drop all these figures at once and build up all this hype for these events, I think it does move more figures. I think that's just kind of the nature of collecting. Like when things get hype, people tend to be interested in things I think they typically wouldn't be as worried about if the hype wasn't there. I know I've been guilty of buying into hype before. I love the G.I. Joe Classified line, but I was definitely sucked into the hype pretty hard when that line first came out. I was really worried about getting all the exclusives, and since then I've pretty much sold them all because I realized they didn't really mean what I thought they meant to me at the time. But I definitely don't love Joes the way I love Turtles. I'm definitely down for the deep cuts of the Toon line because this kind of is my Turtles line. Outside of Playmates, this is definitely going to be the biggest Turtles line we ever get. I don't really see how it could be possible for anyone else to even touch them at this point. Super 7 doesn't rattle out figures fast enough, and they definitely put more into this line than they do any of their other Turtle lines, so I don't really see them catching up even if the Toon line slowed down quite a bit. And even once they do start exhausting all the characters, the other thing I didn't really mention is that I feel like soon they're gonna start rebooting a lot of the characters too. We already know that April's on deck. We know there's probably another Casey coming. I for one hope we get a couple versions of Casey. I would love the business suit Casey when he gets that job. God, that would be such a sweet figure. But I feel like just like the Turtles, they're gonna give us new versions of the Shredder. They're gonna give us new Bebop and Rocksteadies. And I honestly think that'll kind of reinvigorate the line. Not only will the hardcore collectors like me want to get these new versions, but it'll be a good jumping on point for new collectors who might have maybe been into Super 7 that kind of want to jump ship at this point. And if NECA were smart, now would kind of be the time to do that. So I think I got the majority of my thoughts out here. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you guys think the future of this line is? Are you bummed that it's probably going to be stuck to these online events going forward? I know I am. It causes me a lot of stress. It makes collecting not fun. I hate having to go to Target every single day. If you're patient, they did put everything up online, which is one thing that I do have to give them credit for. Yeah, some of the things like the accessory set did go way too fast, but for the most part, I got everything from the ease of my desk at work. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you to all my subscribers. You guys are awesome. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys. Take it easy, be safe, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace. Are we about to get a fucking Savage Dragon figure?